First of all, good morning, dear teacher and classmates. Today we have the pleasure to make a brain dissection, and you will be asking what type of brain? Well, it would be a cow's brain. Here we can see it. So let's begin with a small introduction. Today we are going to talk about the nervous system, which is divided in two parts, the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is composed of the cranial pairs and the spinal pairs. On the other hand, we have the central nervous system, composed also of the spinal cord, which will be this part of the brain, this one, and the encephalon here. Many people think that the encephalon means only the brain. However, that is a misunderstood. The brain is only one part of the encephalon. However, we also have the brainstem, which will be here, and the cerebellum, back on the brainstem, which will be this one. All this structure makes the encephalon. And of course, the encephalon and the spinal cord needs a protection. And which kind of protection? Well, we have bones, tissues known as meninges, and fluids. Here we can see the brain, the two hemispheres. Around it is fluid. Then we have tissues known as meninges. The one in purple is the pia madre. In white, we have the arachnoide, and in gray, the dura madre. Finally, we have a bone structure known as a cranial bone, and this is how the central nervous system is protected. Now, we will explain the composition of the encephalon, starting with the brainstem.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the brainstem, its function, and its anatomy. The brainstem is formed by the spinal bulb, the middle brain or the midbrain, and the bridge. As you can see here in the diagram, we have the encephalon, which is the big part, and we have the brainstem composition. As I said, we have the spinal bulb, we have the midbrain or middle brain, and we have the bridge. Now talking about function, the brainstem regulates a lot of things. For example, it regulates the heart rate, it regulates the blood pressure, it regulates the secretion of digestive juices, and it also participates in solving processes. Now let's take a look of this. We have the brainstem composition and the structure and its function. Um, the number one is the oblong medulla, and its function is to control blood pressure, to control the respiratory rate, and to control the flution, vomiting, sneezing, and hiccups. Now, the second one is ring extrusion or barrel bridge. Its function is to control respiratory movements, to receive sensory information, and to control facial expressions. Now in number three, the third one is midbrain or middle brain, and its function is to control the movement of the eyeballs and the contraction of the pupil. It regulates reflexes and it has sensory function. I mean the vision and the hearing. Now here we have an example. We have the cerebrum. In the lower part, we have the cerebellum, which is with blue. We have the spinal cord with gray. The bones, the brainstem, the midbrain, and the encephalon. In the lower part, we have the thalamus, which is with yellow, the middle brain, which is with purple, and the spinal bulb. We also have the spinal cord, and all of this is the brainstem. Now here we have a picture as an example. Let's take a look, please, to the picture of the left. We have the three sections of the structure. As I said, we have three structures. The first one was oblong medulla or medulla. The second one was ring extrusion or barolio bridge, and the third one was midbrain or middle brain. And here are the examples. The first one is oblong medulla or medulla, and it its function is to control respiratory rate, and we have the image in the of the lungs here in the right part. Now the second one is the ring extrusion or barrier bridge, and we have well, its function is to control facial expressions. In the left we have images of the girl with facial expressions. And the third one is the midbrain or middle brain, and this one relates reflexes, but it also controls the movement of the eyeballs and the contraction of the pupil.
Hi everyone, the next point in this presentation about the dissection of the brain is this one, the cerebellum. First we have the anatomy of the cerebellum. Immediately above the spinal bulb the central nervous system expands dorsally to form the cerebellum, also known as the small brain. The cerebellum, like the brain, has a highly folded surface that significantly increases the area of its gray matter bark. It's estimated that the cerebellum has in its vicinity 10 billion neurons with various functional roles. Then we have the functions. The cerebellum. The cerebellum processes the information it receives from the cerebral cortex, several brain stem nuclei and sensory receptors to soften and coordinate complex precision movements. It plays an important role in the balance and functions of cognitive and language processing for us. Then here is the anatomical structure of the cerebellum. Its structure is like this one, all this one. Here we can see the different lobes in the cerebellum. For example, here we have the posterior lobe, then we have the anterior lobe, then here we have the bones of the cerebellum, and finally here we have the medulla.
Okay, so let's talk about the brain. The brain is the most voluminous part of the encephalon. It consists of a mass of nerve tissues and deals with cognitive and emotional functions. The brain is held by other organs, as we can see here. Okay, the brain composition. The brain is composed of 40% gray matter, which are all the neurons, the 1 billion neurons we have, 60% white matter, all the axons and dendrites that the neurons use to transmit signals and information. 75% of water and 60% of fat is the fattest organ in the body. That is why many people said you need to eat a lot of nuts. Veins and arteries. As any organ, the brain also needs to be oxygenated. So that's why we have three main principal arteries: the middle cerebral artery, the carotid artery, and the basilar artery. The three of them make the Willis polygon. We can see it here on the brain, and on the dissection we will also see it. Here is an image to explain how we will see the encephalon on the dissection. The cerebral hemispheres, the protections I have told you, the dura madre, pia madre, etc. And the cerebellum, one part of it, like this. Now I will explain how we study the brain. For its study, we divide the brain in two parts, two hemispheres, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. We have different lobes, the frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and inside we also have other type of structures. The limbic lobe and the lobe of the insulina. Each lobe has a specific function because each one has a specific cerebral cortex. So basically, the frontal lobe, this, helps for behavior, planning, control our emotions, reason, and judgment. Then we have the parietal lobe, will help us basically to sensory associative as well as space recognition functions. The occipital lobe for the visual information, uh, and the temporal lobe. This is very important because has important structures of memory like the hippocampus and the unconscious emotional system. So now let's see a little bit of the cerebral cortex.
The cerebral cortex is the outermost layer of the brain. It is made of a thin sheet of neurons with interconnections. It is responsible for thinking, perceiving, understanding, and processing information. Most of the information processing occurs in the cerebral cortex. The cortex is very full and only a third is exposed to the surface. The rest is hidden in the large and small cracks, called fissures and grooves, elevated surface from the twists or turns of the brain. As you can see in the images, the cerebral cortex is divided into areas. First is the motor area that is located in the frontal lobe, in front of the central sulcus, or called Rolando's fissure. Then is the sensory area that is behind the central groove in the parietal lobe. Then is the visual area that is located in the occipital lobe. And finally, the language area are at the bottom of the central sulcus, and that is called Rolando's fissure, and in the frontal lobe. So to finish this part of the cerebral cortex, I'm going to talk about the cerebral features. I mean the principal features in the brain. First, we have the lateral fissure, or Sylvius fissure, that is located in the lower part of the two cerebral hemispheres to lather transverse a large part of the brain. So now I'm going to talk about the encephalon. That is a structure that contains many parts that are very important in the brain. So first we have the thalamus that is located in the part of the forebrain below the corpus callosum. It is responsible to transmitting the information from the sensory receptors to areas of the brain. All this process through in the axon bands. So the axon bands are that part of the brain. So then we have the hypothalamus, that is an important part that is responsible to produce the hormones that control the organs and cells in the body in general. And then we have the subthalamus, that is located in between the thalamus and the midbrain, and participate in the integration of the somatic motor function. So here we have the division of the thalamus. First we have the left thalamus and the right thalamus. And we have the axon bands, that is that transmit the information from sensory receptors to areas of the brain. And then we have the hypothalamus. So now I'm going to talk about other very important parts of the encephalon. So first we have the fornix, that is a set of C-shaped nerve blocks in the brain that carries in signals from the hippocampus to the hypothalamus. So then we have the hippocampus, is responsible for the processing the information of long-term memory and the emotional responses. So we have the amygdala, that is responsible for detecting fear and preparing for emergency events, and is that part of the brain, and that part, okay. And then we have the putamen, has a fundamental in the preparation and the execution of the movements of the extremities. And finally, we have the caudals that are linked to movement control too. To finish this explanation about the brain and start with the dissection, I want to talk about the white substance and the gray substance. So first we have the gray substance, correspond to those areas of the central nervous system of grayish color, integrates mainly by neuronal and sinus downs, often together with glial cells. And then we have the white substance. The white substance is a part of the central nervous system made up of myelinate nerve fiber. And nerve fibers mostly contain many axons.
Okay, so the materials for this dissection will be the next one. First, we have two co-brains, a mouth cover for each student, a pair of latex gloves, a clean lab, then four scalpels with sharp blades, then a pair of surgical clamps, two surgical scissors, two thin trays, two clean clothes, 3 meter long plastic, okay, then trash bags, black, two sheets of acetate, then one large plastic bag with zipper, and finally 1 liter clean water.
Okay, the dissection steps. We will make three different cuts today. One would be a median cut right here. So we could see the structure inside the brain. We will see something like similar to this. Then we will make another type of cut here. That will be like a sagittal cut. In order we can see what is inside of the brain. Also, we will see one part of the cerebellum here, and if we have the time, the spinal cord. So if you have any doubt or you need another type of explanation, you can ask Islas Eric, Garcia Valos, Medina Emiliano, and Miranda Axel. Let's begin. We hope you enjoy the dissection, and let's go. And thank you for your attention.